Let's talk some LSU recruiting. Got Shea Dixon here from the Bengal Tiger. Last year at this time, LSU had the number one class in America. This year at this time, they have the number one class in America. I want to know, are they going to be able to hold it? But first, I got to talk a little transfer portal with you. Shea, what was the most important transfer portal addition this offseason for LSU?
You know, Josh, I'm looking right now at the list of guys they've gotten, and Brian Kelly said it would be a calm or quiet, he said, spring window. He was right. They only had one guy leave that was a scholarship guy. He was a freshman that had just signed, Dylan Battle, a three-star at Texas. And remember, Bo Davis signed him. Bo Davis is now the D-line coach for the Saints. So position shakeup there and staff shakeup. But they added a DT, Bernard Gooden out of USF by way of Wake. But he had been arguably, I guess at this point, the best DT that's available, and they made quick work. Miami, others wanted visits, but I still look around like DT Josh was a need for him. They got him. Wide receiver, they needed to add some guys like Nick Anderson, a former top 100 guy. Berrien Brown is probably the biggest standout there, and I think maybe some people's answer. Coming out of Nashville as a top 100 kid, played at Kentucky, tons of production. They really needed DB help, so safety to Marcus Cooley. NC State had a really good corner and safety room. Everybody transferred. He was probably their best, but my answer will be Mansour Delaney. And I think coming out of Virginia Tech, just when you think, Josh, a lot of guys postseason, they get in, shoulders cleaned up, whatever it might be. They're out for spring. He's not been injured. He practiced every single one of the 15 practices LSU had. Did a little cross training, but he's going to play corner. He's got 30-something starts. He's got 150-something career tackles. And for Corey Raymond, I think day one, DJ Pickett's going to start, but it still buys him a little bit of time there, right? And he also, Corey Raymond, transferred in Jakeem Jackson, who he signed at Florida. Jakeem Jackson was the number 3 cornerback on 2 years ago. He got banged up to start the year, and then he sat it out to redshirt and transfer, but you still don't know, is he going to be ready right away? So I just feel like, and look behind them, you've got the guys they had to play last year as true freshmen, PJ Woodland, Stamps, and those guys were learning on the run. So to rebuild DBU, if you will, I think they've got to be strong at corner. And obviously Pickett's a great signee, and I think starts, but I think Cooley is going to be the vet there that maybe goes one-on-one, certainly early on with whoever's best receiver is on the other side.
You got me fired up about this defense. LSU fans, do me a favor.
I said Cooley, Josh. Delaney. I meant Delaney.
All right.
When you take 17 transfers, you mix them up.
But LSU fans, jump on board, hit subscribe for me. And Shea, last year, number one class in America. This year, still the number one class in America. But there's been a lot that's gone on in the last year. How do you think, not just the fan base, but the coaching staff as well, is handling this recruiting cycle?
I think, well, gosh, Josh, last year when we talked about this being the number one class, it was Underwood, it was DeCorian Moore. And this time when we talk about number one class, it's built on all Louisiana guys, largely, and then one kid from a border state who have, 5-star number one overall player at his position, Tristan Keys, who I'm sure we'll dive into here shortly. But it feels like a little bit more stable, right? Like holding on to Underwood, holding on to DeCorian Moore when he was making visits while he was committed, and being an out-of-state kid just seemed like, man, LSU's got to really kind of hold on tight here. Obviously, Moore flipped on him, and then so did Underwood. But still signed a good class, top 5 class, held on to DJ Pickett and others. But I think this year, Josh, number one, tough to do. But if you can finish top 5 again and lock down Louisiana, that's all LSU wants to do.
All right, well, let's take a look at that path to a number one, maybe top 3. But let's focus on a number one class in America. And I have a feeling that if LSU can take care of business in the trenches and really hit it out of the park, I think that keeps them on pace for that number one class. And if we're looking at top targets, it starts with offensive tackle Emmanuel Iheanacho, and also the number one player in the state of Louisiana, Lamar Brown, maybe more of an interior guy. But where do Iheanacho and Brown sit with the LSU Tigers right now?
Yeah, and Lamar Brown has gone back and forth. Now he's saying he wants to play D-line. So he debuted as our number one athlete now when he moved over from the O-line rankings. He can play either way. He could play D-line or play O-line. I think he's going to play D-line. That's where he's
Okay.
been talking to LSU and A&M the most about right now. I mean, whether that's end or DT, we'll see. But he's a phenomenal athlete, and on three, he's number one athlete. But on Iheanacho, I think that Josh, you look at Will Campbell got drafted this past weekend, right? That in the top five, number four overall, going to the Patriots. 3 and out, started every game at left tackle. Iheanacho obviously can be sold on that type of pitch. I do think that Steve Wiltfong spot on here that locally, Maryland, who's already got a 5-star committed, is trying to get another. In Iheanacho as a team to watch. And then coming off of an Oregon visit, it seems that Dan Lanning and the Ducks are very involved here, if not one of the kind of 1B to Maryland. But LSU, Bama, Auburn, A&M. I mean, there are a lot of SEC schools trying to get in the mix. I'll give you just a little behind the scenes quickly. I was at the Nike event at the Super Bowl where the 32 teams were rep by 32 kids, and he was there for the Commanders. And when I interviewed him, he was still thinking about what was going to be like a fifth or sixth OV, and there were like 5 schools in the mix, and LSU was one of them. So like that's how far back they were then. And they've made up ground really rapidly. They got a visit out of him. Now they locked in an OV. Now they've made his lead group. So did they get him? I don't know. But if you want to talk about a path to a number one class, you land a guy like that, number 2 overall player in the country. I think that will obviously boost you in a big way. So they went from off the radar here to definitely in the conversation.
Yeah, and you're right. Lamar Brown is now the number one athlete in America at 6'3" and a half. 285 pounds. My man is listed as an athlete. I love that. A couple months ago, Brandon Arrington, who's about 6'2" and a half, 180 pounds, was the number one athlete. Now Lamar Brown is our number one athlete. So who's the biggest competition here? Inside Scoop listeners, I got to tell you about a company that makes this show possible. It's Roback Activewear. The only way to describe Roback is best fit, best feel. And for those who are not familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Roback has released so many items within their new licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. With novel polo designs, clean hoodie, and quarter zip designs from some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing these level of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta Performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They are both super comfortable. They have an elastic waistband and a great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for everyday movement. Roback also has been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. So use code JOSH on roback.com for a generous 20% off all new custom orders through the end of this week. Let's spell it out for you. RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with promo code JOSH.
It's A&M. There's no doubt about it. And it's funny because Texas became, when they entered the SEC, Josh, they got that playing card, right? They got that. That was a thing that everybody could say in the SEC of, hey, yeah, you could go to Texas or you could come here and play in the SEC. Mm-hmm. Well, now you can't do that. And LSU went head-to-head with Texas hard these past 2 cycles. Now it's shifted back to A&M a little bit, right? And it's a very geographic thing. It's 4-hour drive from Baton Rouge. So if Louisiana kids get recruited, East Texas kids get recruited to both programs. And he has visited both a ton. And look, Southern Cal, other teams are getting visits. But I think this boils down to LSU and A&M. And my on-3 RPM has been on LSU. I'll keep it there. I kind of like LSU's chances for him more because he is waiting. People, I know you know this, Josh, but he goes to U High. That's on LSU's campus. Like where he plays his Friday night games is literally backed up to LSU's practice facility and where they practice every day. So it's one of those things where these kids get out and experience something new. And it's like, oh, do I want to go to college the exact same place I went to high school? It's literally on the same campus. So I don't think LSU wanted Lamar Brown to shut it down in 10th grade or something like that, right? Like go take your visits, take your OVs, see it all, then make a decision. And I think it's boiling down now to, hey, look, I'd like to stay close to home, and these are my two best options.
Right. All right, let's talk about the quarterback position. We've been talking about this for a couple weeks on this show. What is LSU going to do at the quarterback position? Is the top target still Bo Bentley?
He is, and look, Joe Sloan. He's paid a lot of money to be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. So he's kind of planned for situations like what happens if Bryce Underwood doesn't come to LSU, right? And he flipped in the 11th hour. That doesn't give you a lot of wiggle room, so it became a transfer. Michael Van Buren from State, who stepped in and started double-digit games as a true freshman. But pivoting to a top 5 quarterback in the next class wasn't something many people would have had on the bingo card, right? Like who's going to, as a top 5 quarterback, follow Underwood? Well, when Underwood flipped to Michigan, the doors sort of swung open, and whether it was Diabell or you name it, out of kind of that group of top 5, they were already on him. But Bo Bentley's the one who's remained uncommitted, and Oklahoma was viewed as a favorite. LSU got a visit, then they locked in an OV, and now Georgia. Those are his final 3. So LSU's got a good relationship with him. Sloan's building on that. I think the visit for him and his dad here was big, Josh, in March. And we'll see. Look, OU and Georgia both recruit quarterbacks very well. But we're old enough to not realize how the youth think that these kids who are about Bo Bentley's age probably started following football closely around 2018, 2019. And LSU's turning out Joe Burrow and then Jaden Daniels and Nussmeier. And during the Les Miles era, that wasn't always the case. So LSU is kind of viewed as the quarterback factory right now after a couple of Heisman winners who went on to have great success in the NFL. So I am not counting out LSU here, even more so for a Texas kid. It's not like this is a kid out of California or something. It's a guy who's local, and LSU and Oklahoma are the 2 closest schools to him.
All right, so holding on to that number 1 class, it's imperative that they land some of these names that we just talked about, but it's also imperative that they hold on to what they got, namely Tristan Keys, the number 1 wide receiver in America. He's from the state of Mississippi. We know some crazy things go down in the SIP as we get closer to National Signing Day. Do you see any reason to worry about Tristan Keys?
The worry meter is always there when you've got a 5-star wide receiver that's number 1 committed. I think LSU fans quickly go to DeCorian Moore, right? Because that was last cycle. Sure. He was the number 1 receiver. He was a 5-star. He committed early.
He was out of state.
And then he makes visits. He's a border state kid, and then he flips on you. And everyone says, well, is this going to happen again? I've got some insight here.
Tell him
Josh.
It's not going to happen, Shay.
Well, Tristan Keys is a Hattiesburg High rising senior. I graduated from Hattiesburg High. I won't say which class. I don't want to age myself. But Hattiesburg's about a 2-hour, 15-minute drive, Josh, 2.5. That's less than it is to get to Oxford, to get to Starkville, to get to Tuscaloosa. LSU is the closest school to him. So even geographically speaking, that's the close school. The in-state schools are a little bit further of a drive. Not much, but you kind of get the picture there. He's been around here since about 8th grade, and there's a reason why. Donovan Tate, who is also a Hattiesburg High grad, is LSU's director of recruiting, and they've been hot and heavy in the Pine Belt the past couple cycles. They signed P.J. Woodland out of Oak Grove at corner, a 4-star. They signed this past cycle Tyler Miller out of Laurel, a 4-star. And look, both those guys, I think, were recruited. I know one of them was committed to an in-state school, but heavily by Ole Miss and State. They stay at LSU. They didn't hit the portal, so they're going to be on the team when Tristan Keys signs. And I just think between the connections they have at Hattiesburg, how long he's been around, the kind of relationship with his family that dates back many, many years here, makes it so much different than DeCorian. I actually think right now, if you were to just make me pick, I think he sticks, because whether it's development, NIL, geographic location, fit, all of that, it's there for him. Like LSU's already had all those discussions. That's why he committed. Is he going to make visits? Yeah, he's made a bunch of visits that he already had planned, and he's also probably going to make some official visits. But that's just the lay of the land these days. I think that this is still one that they've had enough conversations and backstory here of knowledge of the situation to where not much will happen that they don't know about in terms of Tristan visiting schools and stuff like that. So mark me down, Josh. What is it? April 28th. I'll say he stays committed and signs in December.
All right, let us know. Do you guys agree with Shay? Do you believe that LSU will finish with the number one class in America? Let us know. Comment section below.